I think a lot of people dislike the tournaments sort of transitioning Grand Slams because they think that there's just too many tournaments going on. But I think it's a great opportunity for just some new players who maybe isn't capable of reaching the second week or the semifinals of a Grand Slam to really get their moment and to gain confidence. And sometimes with these smaller tournaments, I think it's important to shine light on them because a lot of the players that do well in these smaller tournaments might actually succeed in future Grand Slams because of the practice they get from smaller tournaments. An example I could think about is Madison Keys, who won a title right before the Australian Open, and she ended up beating Elena Rybakina, Iga Swiatek, and Arina Sabalenka on her run, and I think that title really prepared her for this run. So yeah. Welcome tennis fans to Tennis Traverse, Exploring the Game, the podcast that delves into the heart of the tennis world. I'm your host, Ivy Zhang. And in today's episode, I want to talk about some smaller tournaments that's been going on, including some WTA 250s, 500s, and some ATP 500s. So yeah, let's just get right into today's episode. So I want to start off by talking about the Austria tournament in Linz, Austria. And this took place from January 27th to February 2nd, and the winner of this tournament is Alexandrova. And I think just this tournament really is a testament to how you don't really have to perform well in a Grand Slam to win a title. So, however, I do want to mention a few matches that I think are just worth pointing out, including the quarterfinal match between Yastremska and Sakkari. So I think I covered this before, but I feel like Sakkari hasn't had her year, sort of similar with Stefanos Tsitsipas. I feel like even though they're both ranked considerably high, but they haven't been getting the result that they want. I think there has been a lot of pressure put on both of these players. I think a lot of people expected Sakkari and Tsitsipas to win a Grand Slam title, go to a final of a Grand Slam, and it's really hard, especially for Sakkari, because I feel like she's such a disciplined player and she has so much passion for tennis that sometimes she has too high of an expectations going into a Grand Slam, which isn't really good because it could lead to just psyching yourself out from the big situation. And whenever you see it, if she goes to a quarterfinal, she might get really tight because she really wants a title, but going to the quarterfinal means that she really have a chance of winning the title, but that's just going to make her tighter. And I think that's just a toxic cycle that's continuing, and I really think she has to just let loose and just play her tennis no matter what match and what round she's playing at. But that's all for Linz. That's the thing I want to point out. And then for Singapore, not too much I want to point out. I just want to talk about Anna Kalinskaya because I feel like last season Kalinskaya played incredible, especially at the start of the year where she made it to the final in Dubai, I'm pretty sure, or made it to the final while she lost against Paolini in an 1,000 tournament. But I think this year, I'm not sure if it's injury related, but clearly she pulled out of the Australian Open because of injury, and she also retired in Singapore. But I feel like she's been having a lot of injury issues, and I really hope she can resolve them because I feel like she's such a great player, and I've really missed the matchup between Kalinskaya and Paolini. And I do admit, at the start of their sort of rivalry from last year, because they played against each other so many times last year, I always thought that Kalinskaya was going to come out on top. I think I just underestimated Jasmine Paolini for so many times, much like a lot of the other people I know. I think people continue to underestimate Paolini just because of her size, but she's such a powerful player, and her ability to rally and handle the moon balls from a lot of players and hit them back with faster speeds and just like such a powerful attacking shot, and just trying to stay in a rally is such a unique quality to me, because I am also, well, I'm on a shorter side, and when I play tennis I feel like it's really hard to stay in a rally with someone that's really tall because of how dominant, like how much of an advantage you have when you're tall, just both power and just like in terms of tennis techniques, like your serve will be so much more powerful, your forehand and your backhand as well. But I think she really have just the skills to stay in a competitive rally and win those rallies, and her passion for tennis is just, yeah, unbelievable. Sorry for my Paolini rant, but yeah. Okay, now I want to talk about I think I want to talk about the Abu Dhabi Open. So I want to talk about this tournament because last year Rybakina won this tournament and she's looking to defend her title, but she actually lost to Belinda Bencic. And I do want to mention Belinda Bencic and what this title win will mean for her, but a lot of great players participated in this tournament, including Paula Badosa, Ons Jabeur, Leila Ferdinand, Elena Rybakina, etc. And I think the thing I want to mention is I feel like Ons Jabeur, she's having a great year because last year has just been plagued by injuries, and this year I feel like she's slowly coming back, and I feel like it's serving her well because she made it really far in Australian Open, and although she lost to Emma Navarro, I watched that match and I think I just really missed her playing style because, first of all, it's so unique, and I've never seen someone hit a tennis ball like her slices, and just the way she's able to sort of use every single spot on the tennis court is absolutely beautiful. And also, just because of how popular she is among the tennis player, we can tell that she's someone I feel like really deserve a WTA 1000 title. I feel like she really deserves a lot, and for her to come back, I think have considerably good results is pretty valuable. And I will be leaving a link to some of these matches in Abu Dhabi because there are some incredible matches. So one of the quarterfinals match that I want to point out is Elena Rybakina beating Ons Jabeur with a score of 6-2, 4-6, and 7-4 in the deciding set tiebreak. It was a great match, and I feel like I do want to say that Rybakina, she's such an unknown quality, but when she's able to sort of resolve her back injuries and just step away from all the controversies surrounding Stefanos Vukov, I feel like she's a great player, and if she's on, I feel like she's able to dominate. And an example could be last year where she literally played and beat Arina Sabalenka in the final before Australian Open, I think in Brisbane, with a score of 6-0, 6-3. That was absolutely insane because I feel like going into both that final and the Australian Open, everyone expected Sabalenka to be the favorite just because of how dominant she is on the hard court, especially in Australia. And yeah, I feel like that was just insane ball striking, and if she can find the form she was in before, I think she really have a chance of doing damage on hard courts. And then I want to talk about Belinda Bencic because I just feel like Belinda Bencic is such an interesting player because she beat Elena Rybakina, and she took last season off because she was on maternity leave, and she's just back, and I think everyone just, I don't know, somehow just expected her to come back and play at a high level like she was before, and she's clearly meeting the expectations. She won the title in Dubai, and I mean, I just think she's such a wonderful player because she's able to absorb the power and just redirect the ball into any places she wants. And I think there's also this like cute moment where she took I think her son, yeah, to the court, and it was such a cute moment because she just won her title. And I don't know, I just feel like she really deserves a big win, and I feel like she's also pretty good on all surfaces as well. So I feel like this will really serve her, and I'm really looking forward to seeing her. I don't think she can win a Grand Slam title because I really want to see her match up against players like Sabalenka, for example, Madison Keys even. I think that'll be a fantastic match. And Coco Gauff. I mean, Rybakina, as I said, even though she did beat Rybakina is such an unknown quality. We just don't know what we're going to get. So I really want her to play against players like, as I said before, those top players who are consistently on a top level. I'll put Iga Świątek in there as well. Okay, so we'll take a little break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the ATP, the men's side. Okay, everyone, welcome back. And I do want to say that this episode will be a little bit on the shorter side because there isn't really that many tournaments to talk about. But for the men's side, I want to start off with the Davis Cup, even though it already ended. But I'm not going to go too in depth into this tournament just because I feel like there's so much and there's so much like controversy surrounding it. I think the episode by the Tennis Podcast really summarized like the entire thing. I feel like there's too much to cover, so I'm not going to cover it, but I will leave a link to the Tennis Podcast channel on Spotify. So if you guys want to go to their channel, it's probably the first episode. It's just titled like Davis Cup. And yeah, please click on that and catch up because there's a lot of sort of aggressive moments in it, including some collisions with players and just some like really dramatic handshakes. So yeah. Okay, and also I do want to say I really like the Tennis Podcast. I think it's not as like, it doesn't go into the technicalities like Gil Gross's podcast, but it's just such like a light listen. I love listening to it when I'm getting ready just because of how funny I think it is. It's funny, and I think they also brings light to a lot of serious issues, and overall I just really enjoy Catherine, Matt, and David talking about tennis. So yeah, okay. Now I want to talk about the Dallas Open. So I want to talk about the Dallas Open first because I really expected this tournament to be dominated by the US players. I thought the US players are going to win this tournament, especially like Taylor Fritz. I feel like even though he did suffer that loss in Australian Open against Monfils, I feel like a part of a reason why he lost is because he had such easy previous rounds that when he actually have to play against someone that's on another level than his other opponents, he was just a little bit like psyched out or just like not prepared. And I feel like that's completely normal. And I feel like it's really important to find a balance between like the draw is really important to find a balance between putting like really easy matches compared to really difficult matches, because something like this can happen where he's completely like not underprepared if he played against like a more difficult player, if he had like an easier first round or second round opponent. But at the same time, if he maybe had a rough draw and played against like, for example, Alex Mickelson and got through in 5 rounds, maybe he'll be extremely tired in the next round, if that makes any sense. So I feel like it's really important to find the balance, and I feel like you're extremely lucky if you can find the balance. But yeah. Okay, so as I said before, I really thought this tournament was going to be dominated by US players, but surprisingly, we only have one US man going to the semifinals, and that is Tommy Paul. And I feel like, okay, wait, let me talk to you guys about the semifinals. So we have Tommy Paul versus Denis Shapovalov, which should be a great match, and John Munar against Casper Ruud, which is a replay of the Australian Open match where Casper Ruud won in 5 sets. So that should be a great match too. But I think I don't care about who wins this tournament, to be completely honest. I think both Casper Ruud and Tommy Paul will come through, and I feel like Casper Loki might win this tournament. But I want to talk about Tommy Paul and Taylor Fritz. So far, Tommy Paul's had a more successful season than Taylor Fritz this year. And I know it's so early. It's so early, but I don't know. I feel like Tommy Paul has always been the second one. Taylor Fritz has always been the first player, like in terms of US men rankings. But I feel like Tommy Paul really has a game where he's going to beat players who's consistently ranked lower than him, and he maybe can challenge players like Taylor Fritz, but when it comes to Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic, sort of similar with Taylor Fritz, I feel like he really struggles a lot. And I feel like if either of those players get a win over those three players I mentioned before, they're going to be the top US player. So yeah. But I think, yeah, it's really interesting because I expected Taylor Fritz to go into this year playing amazing tennis like how he ended last season. But I feel like it's a little bit underwhelming. But no hate, I love him. Okay, so now I want to talk about ATP Rotterdam because there are just a lot of great players who actually participate in this tournament, such as Carlos Alcaraz, Alex de Minaur, Hubert Hurkacz, Andrei Rublev, and Tsitsipas, and Daniil Medvedev. Yeah, there's always, like, the lineup is always really stacked. And that Carlos Alcaraz match versus Bolte van de Zandschulp is so funny. I'll leave a link for you guys. I think Carlos is a little bit sick because he is wearing the nose strip, which is supposed to help him with breathing issues. But he's currently playing a match against Hubert Hurkacz, and I think he's probably going to come through pretty easily in the semifinals right now. So he's already up a set. And then for the other semifinals, Alex de Minaur came out. But between Carlos and Alex de Minaur, I think Carlos is clearly going to win. I just feel like the biggest challenge Carlos had, and I feel like I've mentioned this throughout like the past few episodes, is Carlos will just unexpectedly lose to a player on the way of, for example, he lost to Ugo Humbert last year in the Paris Masters, and he lost to Thomas Mahatch in Shanghai. Like, I feel like a lot of these matches, the most like iconic one, I guess, is his loss to Bolte van de Zandschulp in the US Open last year. That was just completely unexpected, and I feel like he really needs to minimize these losses if he wants to win a significant title at a Grand Slam. But at the same time, I feel like his game is not fully developed yet, and he still has a long way to go, I guess. But between Carlos and Alex de Minaur, I think Carlos is going to get his first title of the season. And that's all for today's episode. I know this one's on a shorter one, but I think a shorter side, but I think this will be a palate cleanser because like my past few episodes has been really long, and I really hope you guys will enjoy this episode. If you haven't subscribed to my social medias, you should. It's Tennis Traverse. That is at Tennis Traverse on Instagram and Twitter. And you can also follow me on you can click on my link tree and it will have all my links popping up. If you're listening on YouTube, comment, like, and subscribe. If you're listening on other streaming platforms, please rate my show. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.